Greetings everyone, this is Maurice from the M&M Model Railroad, and this is build log number 01A, and basically what it is the disassembly of the model, and we'll go through the steps in the actual taking apart of this engine for the preparation of the decoder install. So sit tight, be right back. One of the procedures in taking off the hood and the cab is to take off the couplers, the fuel tank, to get things started. And they're held by 3 screws. The first thing we do is to take off, unscrew it. Okay, that's the first one. And then we take off the rear. Trying to be very careful here. Unscrew this. Now, when I first did it with the prototype, way back in the day, I didn't take the fuel tank off, and I'm wondering why I'm having so many problems putting the model back together. And I was breaking some little parts, little details off the fuel tank. Not paying attention. Actually taking out the fuel tank makes it easier actually to put the body on, especially if you have the sanders installed on your model. The second run of the SD70ACes and the I believe it's the SD70M-2, they actually had the sanders or the sanding hoses separate. I guess it was due because of difficulty of installing it. I guess people complained that they were breaking them. Alright, so right now, I'm gonna pull the couplers off, and I'm gonna pull the tank off. I can't do it holding the camera, so you get the idea. If you're planning to change out the couplers to Katy couplers, I suggest that you keep the housing that holds them in place until you get the new couplers to install. Okay, now with the couplers and the fuel tank off, now you have to unscrew the hood from the chassis, which is being held by 2 screws. And actually with the fuel tank off, it's actually easier to reach. As you can see here, there's one, and if you move this over a little bit, you can actually try to see the other one. Oops. You gotta be careful here. Alright, what I'll do is I'll pivot this over. Okay. And I'll show you the other one. It was a little tricky to see, but it's right there. I just gotta shimmy my screwdriver in there to actually take out the screws. Just lay it down here and I'll take them out. Okay, now since we have removed the screws, we remove the hood from the chassis, and the next step is to take the daughter board off. Alright, there are a few leads that have to come off. One that goes to the trucks, both trucks, front and rear, which are on each corner of the PCB board. And there are motor leads which are on the other side. So right here, those two little tabs there, those are the motor leads. That has to come off. And once they come off, then we can just lift this PCB out without disconnecting the lights, or the wires to the lights. We're going to remove them anyway, so, but I find this to be kind of easy to do. One note though, it will be a good idea to always keep the protective padding for the handrails installed on the hood, so that you don't accidentally bend up or break off the handrails, because they are very delicate. Experience tells me that this will be a good idea to actually do, and I've done it and it helped a great deal. Alright, so the next step is to take this board off, and once you see this board off, then we go to the process of taking the lights out. Okay, we're back again, and as you can see, I moved the PCB board from the chassis, and I took the leads off the truck, and they were kind of wrapped around each other, so I basically unwrapped them and just see which side the truck is going to. And what I did was I labeled the ones on the, I guess you would call it the engineer side of the engine. I labeled them with some masking tape. Now, Athearn's kind of dropped the ball here, and I'll tell you why. Now, if you look closely, if you look at the wire leads at the ends, you see them stripped off here. But on this one, when I took it off, that's right, they weren't stripped off. So in other words, this engine was actually running on one truck. So Athearn's in a manufacturing process kind of dropped the ball here. That's, I mean, in my opinion, that's really unacceptable to do something like this. But it is what it is. I mean, good thing that I caught it and disassembled it, and now I can actually fix that. Now the next step is to actually take the lights out. This mangled mess. I still do not understand why, for the life of me, why Athearn will not go LEDs, which will actually make their process simpler. I guess they just don't want to change their manufacturing I guess their manufacturing rules or whatever, practices, more or less. That's the proper term. And they still use the standard cathode lights, and I mean, they look okay, but you can't really run them with DCC decoder without putting a whole bunch of resistors. I have done this before, and let me tell you, I hated it. It was just a near disaster. I mean, sometimes they'll work, sometimes they don't. They blow out. It was just a lot of headaches, so I just might as well just go LEDs and call it a day. They easy to install, or easier to install. Actually, speaking of LED lights, the lights are on their way. I just got an email the other day. They said they shipped them out, and the vendor name is, I believe, is SBS4DC for DCC. So it's SBS4DCC, and I guess a small little, a little upstart. Matter of fact, Monster Railroad had recommended this particular site, and they're much cheaper when it comes to their LED lights. I usually buy my lights from Ulrich Hobbies. By the time you buy the lights, you're going to spend like $60 at Ulrich, whereas in this place I only spent, with shipping, $23. The only difference with the lights are these lights from SBS4DCC, they are actually a little dimmer. But other than that, they work fine. Alright, so enough rambling. I'm going to take these wires out, and the next step is going to actually be to make the holes wider for the headlights, and that's a real fun job. So stay tuned. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention, the ditch lights. Ditch lights, they are kind of tricky to take off. Matter of fact, they do come off easily, and for the exception that the bulbs are basically very difficult to get off. In some cases they'll come off fairly easy. I don't know about this build, but I will certainly find out. And a word of caution, these ditch lights do have lenses. Now, when I first was working on these, I was wondering why these little pieces of glass was popping out of these things, and I assumed that the housing was all one piece. No, there are actually lenses in this thing, which is pretty impressive. I don't understand why they don't use these same lenses for the headlights and the rear lights. I guess that's in a perfect world, but they're pretty tricky to take out the wiring. But what I do is basically I clip off. I don't know if you can see. Let's see. I get the camera, get this positioned a certain way so you can actually see it. Give me a second. Okay. Now, this tool is very handy. Acts as a wire cutter, stripper. This thing is a godsend. Basically, what I do, I clip the wires, if you can see, in two places here, and let's see, I'm trying to get a better position. Here and here, and they split into two different directions. The camera doesn't get it very well, but I hope you get the idea. Once I clip them off, then I'll pull off very carefully. I'll pull off the ditch lights, and once they come off, then we're basically ready to go. Make sure you don't lose the ditch lights. They're very easy to lose. They're very small pieces, and make sure that the lenses do not pop up. Another thing about the ditch light housing, you have to basically drill out with a Dremel or a one of those, I guess, handheld drill bits. I forgot what you call them, but you have to basically ream them out so that you can actually fit in the LED lights inside of them. I guess I can show you how that works in a later video. Okay, I'm back. Now that we have taken the ditch lights out, as you can see, this time around they weren't too easy to take off, and I believe what Athearn has done, they had used some better glue, because it took some effort actually taking them off, believe it or not. The bulbs, happily, they actually popped right out, so that was great. So it saved me a lot of trouble. And as for the leads, I had to cut some more of the plastic off, or the protective covering off the leads, and I cut the leads off in the rear ones the way Athearn should have done it. I find it kind of comical that they messed up on this, because this could actually hamper performance severely if just one truck is operational. Actually, I've had done that before by accident. Well, not cut the leads and connect them, but they weren't. Long story. I'm trying to make it short as possible. I use those little black tabs to actually connect the leads to the decoder, and the leads weren't connected very well due to those black tabs. So I stopped using the black tabs and I just solder straight to the decoder, which is much more efficient. And I'll show you that as well. So what's coming up? Next thing will be is to install the speakers and the decoder. And that's the part that everybody's been waiting for. So everyone stay tuned to Build 02.